Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Money Matters Top Tips for Success, where each and every day I bring on new business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and have them share their top tips for success with you. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres to keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today is a very special Reunion 2020 episode. What is that? That's when I bring on a guest that I had on in the past because I liked them so much. I couldn't get enough of them. We had to bring them right back. So today's guest is Michael Goldstein, and he is the Executive Vice President over at the Gottlieb Organization. Michael, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Adam. I'm happy we survived into the next decade.
As am I, and glad to have you back on, and excited about today's topic, business planning, individual planning. Happy to dive into that with you. But before we do, we have a lot of new listeners. I don't want to assume everybody caught the first episode, so the new listeners. So let's get a little bit further into what you're doing over at the Gottlieb Organization. So first, tell us a little bit more about the company, please.
Sure. A company has been in existence for a little over 60 years. It was started by the founder, Alan Gottlieb, whose son, Joshua Gottlieb, who is now the CEO and chair of the company, who took it over many, many years ago and has been running it as a place for high net worth individuals, large, closely held companies, and publicly held companies to receive services involving executive compensation, estate planning structures, tax structures that are very not cutting edge, not bleeding edge, but certainly close to something that people have not experienced before, and that are very effective with regard to individuals and companies who are trying to minimize tax issues with regard to the change in the law that seems to be constantly going on. So we're really basically an organization that also advises the advisors. What I mean by that is that many of the clients we talk to have their own effective and significantly outstanding legal and accounting professionals, but sometimes they are not attuned to some of the other unique things that are going on in our industry, and we become the advisors to them to enable them to see what we propose, have them vet it, and then determine whether it's something that their clients should move forward on. So it's a really unique approach. Not many organizations do it this way, and we're very proud that we've kind of established the bar for everyone else to try and match. So that's basically what we're doing at this point.
And just so that the listeners have a little bit more of a feel, especially if somebody is interested in reaching out, what type of clients do you typically work with? Just so they have a feel of if the Gottlieb Organization is something they should look further into.
Well, it's certainly the strategies that we provide are really aimed towards people who would be considered the high net worth region. So we're talking maybe 20, 25 million net worth of these individuals that are interested in the structures that we have. That's not to say that we will not meet with and talk to people whose net worth is below that if we think that there is a fit. But we don't want to have somebody come in who's really not in a position to do the kind of planning that we suggest, and it's just it winds up being sort of a waste of time for them. To sit down, find out all these things that we can do for them, and then at the end of the day, they're going to say, well, we really don't need to do any of this, and we've spent a lot of time with them trying to get them through the shoals of the problems in the tax world. So we really vet them early on, and we also, most times, rely upon the advisors who will bring us in. So we have a significant core group of attorneys and accountants that have been funneling opportunities to us because they know that we can deliver to those particular clients who have those particular needs. So a lot of time is coming through that group of people. Now, again, I want to make it clear, I'm not the kind of person that's going to turn somebody away without at least speaking to them. So there may be some instances where I'll be happy to at least advise someone that is calling us seeing whether or not these services work for them, and vet them at that point so that if it is something that there's a fit, we can move forward. If not, I'm usually in a position to maybe recommend somebody else.
That's awesome. Let's switch it up a bit. So business planning, individual planning, going into 2020, what should people be thinking about?
Well, it's sort of interesting. We have had, I would say, since 2017, some really interesting issues that have risen in the tax world. And we had the Tax Act that was passed in 2017 that sort of upended a lot of people's planning. And right when they were secure that their planning was going to be sufficient to go at least the next 10 years, Congress comes along and creates something called the Secure Act. The Secure Act, by the way, is an acronym for setting every community up for retirement enhancement. I figure they stood up all night coming up with that one. And one of the problems with this act is it got rid of what is sometimes referred to in the pension world as the stretch IRA. What it is a stretch IRA enables people who, when they pass away, they have certain designations that are beneficiaries. So their beneficiaries are nowhere near the retirement age. They were able to avoid tax on that IRA balance and not required to take what are called required minimum distributions for a significant period of time. If it went to the wife, to the surviving spouse, then they had the same benefit. And the kids also received the same benefit if the surviving spouse wasn't died, and the kids then take over this IRA, this 401k plan that went into an IRA, then they were able to stretch it and out until they reach the age where they can take required minimum distribution. So it was a great deal. The stretch IRA really worked well. Well, the Secure Act, again, setting every community up for retirement enhancement, went ahead and set a lot of people up for a problem with regard to the stretch IRA. Because what happens now is you have a 10-year period in which if this benefits go to someone other than the surviving spouse, to the children, they've got 10 years in which they don't have to take anything from this IRA, and then in the 10th year they got to take all. And they can't spread out the benefit payments over a period of time. Now, there's some exceptions to it, but the point that I'm raising here is this is something that's been around for a long time in the law. And now suddenly you have people in the estate planning world scurrying around trying to figure out ways that they can avoid a significant tax hit. And this is it reminds me of a statement that someone said a while ago. I wish I had, because it's a great statement. The individual said, tax law is written with a pencil. And so by having tax law written with a pencil, suddenly everybody is now having to reevaluate how they structure these programs, and it's creating a little bit of a sort of angst among the estate planning world of how to deal with these things. And that's my concern at this point, that we now have what I would consider an election coming up that is going to be a rather interesting choice. And depending upon who the Democrats put up, and assuming that President Trump is running again, you're going to have two diametrically opposed positions with regard to business and tax planning. And I think that anybody that believes that there's not going to be some significant activity in Congress during that period of time is living in fantasy land. I think we're going to have a lot of issues that are going to come up, a lot of planning opportunities that may exist, a lot of other planning opportunities that are going to have to be reevaluated, because I believe that Congress, with whoever's in the White House, is going to upend planning as we know it, at least for this next 4 years. So when we mention that we're headed into the new decade, we're starting out with fires in Australia, impeachment in Congress, a crazy pandemic running around the country, around the world, and the ability now to watch tax law change on its head, spin on its head with some significant changes that I think are going to be coming down the line. So that's my bleak outlook for this period of time.
When I seen that what they did to inherited IRAs, the first thing I thought was, oh my gosh, I am glad I'm not a financial planner anymore, because I know they'll grandfather the other people, but is there anything else that's more blatant than them just wanting, like literally passing something to collect taxes faster, 100%. And that's not, inherited IRAs do not, I was a financial planner almost 14 years. Inherited IRAs aren't just for rich people. Inherited IRAs are not just for the wealthy. If your mom had $20,000, $30,000 in an IRA, she passed away and she wanted you to have that money and you were able to put it in an inherited IRA and let that stretch and grow over your life to help you with your retirement one day down the line, and they let you shelter it for longer, that was going to help you. Now, especially if you think about add the money up a little bit more. So let's say you're in California and you and you know what our tax rates are over here already, and let's just say maybe you have $50,000 or $100,000 in that. What they're going to get is they're just going to get 50% of it. It's like, when do you want to give them 50%? Do you want to give it to them now, or do you want to give it to them in 10 years? But they're forcing you to take all the money out so they can literally just rob you of 50% of it. So when I heard that happen, I was like, Michael, the first thing I thought was, because I don't know the exact years, but that inherited IRA, that's been like 20, 30 plus years, something like that. Like, it's maybe more.
That's
I don't
correct.
know. But the point is, if a precedent like that, not president, by the way, I said precedent like that can be set, then that means that in my mind, the first thing I thought about was, oh my gosh, they're coming after Roth IRAs next. That's not, it has to be. Like they're like regular Roth IRAs, and the idea of not paying taxes on that in the future, like they're coming after that next, because that's the only thing next that they could, in terms of an account, that had a tax benefit that was for the person, like not just sheltering, but that had a real like tax benefit that was that there was a really tangible thing that there's no way you could slice it, that it pretty much works out for you if you're doing that for 20 to 30 years or whatever, 40 years, doesn't matter, but on the long term. So inherited had that like kind of provision in it. Roth IRAs, I'm like, oh my gosh, how are they gonna, at some point, if they could do this with something that was around for 30 years, then how are they gonna come out and take the Roth IRA one day, or change it and start saying and like manipulate it to where it's not, like there's gonna be something else added to it? Well, a percentage will be tax free or something else. They might not, but this was drastic. This, to me, when I saw that, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank God I'm not a financial advisor anymore. I'm like, I would not want to deal with that, because that's terrible. It's literally terrible what they're doing to people's retirement just to take tax money, literally. Well, it is.
Yeah,
There's no reason.
That's the what I thought was sort of the I know what I look at as a weird sense of humor by Congress. They keep telling everybody that they want people to save for retirement, and one generation that really has not saved as much as they should start saving, but they haven't saved as much as they can yet, who will inherit these things, are being forced to pay tax on it, after Congress is saying everybody needs to figure out a better way to save. And one of the other problems I have, I'm playing a bleaker picture. I can tell you, every time the tax writers come out, the biggest thing they salivate over is the deductibility of payments in the 401k plan. And they look at the growth in those 401k plans as the stock market continues to ratchet up. And you always hear everybody saying only very few people participate in the stock market. It's only for the rich. Below many 401k plans with ETFs and mutual funds and small stock positions are participating all the time. So you suddenly have that stock market moving up. These plans are getting more and more very extremely rich with regard to all the and then suddenly Congress is looking at how can we tap into that. They're going to come after that at some point in time. That's the thing that has me quite concerned. And the other thing is the Secure Act. When you mention in there, well, it's, the people that have already involved in this treatment are going to be protected. The thing is, the Secure Act does not have a grandfathering provision for those people that have put planning in currently. Now, what they're doing, they're saying, we're not going to grandfather anybody who was alive, and that's one of these things in place, who was alive at start of 2020.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So you've got a plan that may not be grandfathered if it hasn't been activated. So that's where I get a little concerned, because if they're going to start being a little bit more dicey with the grandfathering provision, the allowing individuals that did something already and can continue as if the law hadn't changed,
That will literally break. That will
issue.
literally break plans. That will break like beautiful financial plans that have been done. It will literally break
absolutely.
them
well,
immediately.
It's doing it already. It's doing it already because everybody say, well, we're not dead yet. It's like that old Monty Python movie, In Search of the Holy Grail. I'm not dead yet. They killed the guy at the cart. So if he's not dead yet, that plan doesn't exist. That plan will have to be banned.
Well, Michael, I will say this. I could talk to you all day about this, so that's about our time today. But I'm glad that you're working on that side, and I'm just behind this mic now. Sorry, I can't deal with it in my heart.
We'll pull you back in, Adam. We'll pull you back in.
No, you just keep coming on, and we'll both bicker together, and we'll let everybody know what's going on out there, because that's totally raiding retirement accounts. And when I heard that, I just can't believe it. Like, it's literally just rating them. And the big one for me is, I'm like, well, if they can do this for that, then they can do it for the Roth. If people will allow this to happen for this, they will allow it for the Roth, and then one day the Roth will not be what it is. Just period.
Well,
they'll do something.
And we have found some alternatives for the high net worth individuals. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not at liberty to discuss that. But we have found an additional
Isn't that interesting? And it's not you, and it's obviously you're doing great work over there. But isn't that interesting how it works? So the person that's going to be hurt the most is going to be the person that receives, the $50,000 inheritance,
that's exactly right,
or $100,000 inheritance. Why? Because they're not going to have a choice. They're going to go to their advisor. They're going to go to something else, and there's not going to be extra there to do anything. They're going to say, do you want to take it all out now, or do you want to take it all out in a couple of years? And they're going to say, we'll take it all out now. And you know what that means? It means they're going to take out that $20,000 all at once immediately, because there's no argument for leaving it in over the next 10 years, because you don't know what the stock market's going to do. Like, that's not considered a long-term investment. So you don't know what it's going to do. So they're going to take it out right that moment. And what's going to happen? Uncle Sam's going to get his $10,000 out of it, and you're going to get $10,000 and walk away, and that's it. And half of mom's inheritance went to Uncle Sam for no reason. Terrible, man.
Yeah.
All right, Michael, I got to go, but thank you again for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it. As always, love talking to you. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. If you're listening to this on the YouTube channel, Money Matters Top Tips, I hesitate to say this, but leave us some comments in the video section and let us know what you think about what's going on with these tax laws and all this crazy stuff. Love to engage with you there. And Michael, thanks again for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you, Adam.